If you're parenting correctly, your child will never get to the point where they're acting out and they've gotten chances, as you say. They went extreme, whatever the hell that means. You sound like you're not a good parent or wouldn't be a good parent. Maybe if you don't have any children, don't have any until you learn how to correctly parent. You don't sound, based on your comment, you don't really sound like you are prepared for that level of discipline and patience. And as you can see, somebody thinks it's funny. They think it's funny. Oh, black man, you think it's funny. Why? Oh, okay. I think I get it. I think I get it. You're funny. That's why you think it's funny.
Stop it. Get some help.
Just because there's a presence of a father does not mean that you're going to have successful parenting.
Tell it like it is.
What is up, my beautiful black people? Thank you for joining me for another Harvey Rants video. Can't remember who sent this one to me, but as soon as I jumped on Facebook this morning, this is one of the notifications that I saw, and I decided to jump right on it and get right into this video. So let's go. Now I don't have the sound on, the audio on, because there's music playing, and I don't want no copyright issues. The music we'll be speaking about as well in a moment. The presence of a black father doesn't promise successful parenting. It doesn't. And this is a perfect example of exactly that. I'm also going to get into the comments, reading some of the comments, show you guys some of the comments that I'm definitely going to be responding to. But let me be clear about something. The presence of a father, the presence of a black father, does not promise successful parenting. I know there's a lot of talk out there about, the fathers being involved, black women, black mothers, the worst with single parenting, which has been easily proven several times over. But just because you have a black father involved in the family does not necessarily promote, does not promise good parenting. This is a fact. The fact that any parent thinks it's acceptable to subject your child to physical violence as a form of discipline, you have failed as a parent. People always try to go in the comments and immediately try to combat things and deny things and embarrass themselves, make themselves look extremely stupid, because they'll make assumptions like, oh, spoken by somebody who ain't a parent. I am a parent. Twice. I'm a parent. I have 2 boys. So I'm not only speaking from the facts, the research that I've done, every bit of knowledge that I've acquired from studying and learning my people, but I'm also speaking from experience. It is completely and totally, absolutely unnecessary to subject your child to physical abuse as a form of discipline. It's absolutely unnecessary. I've never ever once had to lay a hand on my boys. We have to get rid of this slavery mentality, these habits that stem from slavery, all this failure. Something that a lot of our black men seem to not take issue with. They seem to think it makes sense to subject young children to very violent, highly offensive, inappropriate, extremely inappropriate music, whether it's in a barbershop like this situation. The countless times I can tell you about that I've witnessed black men pulling up in their cars with the music blasting and all this profanity and all this destructive, horrible, disgusting music, and they have little children. I'm watching them get out the car with very young children, little children in the car with them. Again, just because there's a presence of a father does not mean that you're going to have successful parenting. Well, let's get to the comments. So many of the comments demonstrate the destructive mindset that has led and continues to lead the majority of our people to failure. I'll be recording a video response and posting it today. Here it is. That was 27 minutes ago. Those of you who are familiar with my content, I do read a lot of comments. Not all the time, but the vast majority of the time, I'm reading a lot of comments. A lot of comments. I'm responding to people's comments. I'm going to people's pages and checking their profiles and everything. Do your own research, my people. Do your own research. We live in a time where technology makes it so extremely easy to find out information about almost anybody. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out here doing illegal things, fraudulent things with that information. I'm using people's personal information and the free information that they willingly post on social media for the world to see, to benefit myself and my people. But you also have tons of other methods of acquiring free information. It's everywhere. We live during a time where technology makes it so extremely easy to acquire information about almost anybody. His comment says, crazy work, but I'm glad I learned the concept of beating on something I love to make a point. I love that. I love that. That's a black man, by the way. This white woman's comment is relative to the original comment that was up at the top. Let me go and scroll back to show you guys. One with the black man, old black man, holding a stack of money. Quit playing like y'all don't know he was in that chair, cutting up. Nobody just standing there with a belt just cuz. And he got this laughing emoji, which is part of the reason why this white woman responded the way she did. Jessica. She said, you laugh and say that like children aren't abused on a daily. I don't like the fact that he has a laughing emoji about this either. This is a problem that black people need to take serious and really recognize how it actually plays a huge part in aiding in the destructive future of our children. Apparently she does the fake shit. She devalues herself. Like, be for real. The whoopings came after you got chances or went extreme. Okay? That doesn't justify physically abusing your child. Instead of making excuses for subjecting your child to physical harm, subjecting your child to physical abuse, how about be a better parent? Because whatever came prior, you said the whoopings came after you got chances or went extreme. I mean, first of all, you don't know that. I grew up with a mother on drugs and everything. I grew up with a mother who would beat me for anything. I knew as a very young child that something wasn't right about that. I'm new to this world. I'm a young child. I'm learning these things for the first time. You spill milk and you get your ass whipped. That doesn't make any sense. A massive part of parenting, a very, very huge part of parenting is patience. You got to have a lot of patience, something that so many of our people do not have. That's where you're failing. Most of you are failing when it comes to parenting. And when I say patience, I'm not talking about patience with tolerating the bad things that your children are doing. I'm talking about taking the time, having the patience to sit down, sit still, having the necessary discipline. Actually, I should have said discipline and patience. It's a combination of those two things. Discipline and patience to sit and have the necessary conversations with your child. Explanation, conversations, beneficial, helpful conversations. Okay? Important conversations. Because I said so. Stupid shit that leaves your child with this mental void. And of course, they're out here in this world. They're seeing things in this world, whether you throw a phone in their hand and entertain them all the time so you don't have to worry about parenting them. They may take certain things they experience, they see other things they're experiencing in this world that might make sense to them. And they'll fill those mental voids that you created with something that may not be correct. So this is why it's such a toss up when you're parenting your children in a certain way. The majority of the time, I assure you, and I've done my research, the majority of the time, it's not going to turn out well when you leaving all these mental voids to be potentially filled by all these random other things in this world that might make sense to your child, so they just go with it. Because you didn't explain something to them. You didn't take the time to demonstrate your patience and your discipline. I have conversations, I don't mind sitting for hours if we have to, explaining things to my son. Explain things to my boys. If we have to set aside time specifically for that, hey, we'll do a little research on that later. Hey, we'll have a discussion I'll explain that to you later, son. I do not hesitate. I have no problem with doing that. A huge part of parenting, discipline and patience. Not the only things, but a huge part of parenting. Bro, y'all acting like this is abuse, LMFAO. This man is a father figure for sure. He's trying to make sure his boy ain't going to end up on a shirt. No. He making sure he doesn't end up in prison nor a cemetery at young age. This is how they're writing it, at young age, not at a young age. At young age, tough love is the greatest love. And the thing that bothers me and makes it difficult for me when it comes to these comments, people they put these comments up here as if they don't have, like they didn't graduate from middle school or barely graduate from middle school. No punctuation. I mean, everything's run on. I don't understand how it's even possible to misspell words. My laptop, my cell phone, everything that I use, if you make a mistake, if I'm typing real fast, it corrects it for me. Am I the only one using those features? I don't understand how. Okay. Okay, maybe it does correct it for them, but they don't bother to select to let it correct for them. I might miss every once in a while. It's very rare. Because one thing I also do is read my comments before I send them. Hello. Nevertheless, a lot of people demonstrating failure. Now that doesn't have a profile picture. This one here, believe that's a white guy. Okay, yeah. How does this has anything to do with? I told y'all they don't. I'm the only one preview to this. I'm the only one knowledgeable of the very basic technology we have that's helpful in this way. I guess. How does this has anything to do with stopping that kid from going to jail, getting on a T-shirt? How do we get here? Just saying, you're just saying anything. Exactly. America needs men like him to keep our boys straight. That's you know what parenting. You know what that style of parenting is doing. The only thing that physical discipline teaches our children is that it is acceptable to respond with physical violence when you don't get the results that you desire. That's the only thing it teaches our children, is that it's acceptable. Now, they may have other experiences in their life because, listen, we become the people we are based on our collective experiences in life. Some children may very well be scarred by these experiences of being physically abused. That's not the way I want to keep my children disciplined. I don't want to use fear and pain, these destructive ass habits, to discipline my children. You are failing your child if you think that it's necessary to subject them to physical discipline. And you are the parent that claims they're supposed to love your child more than anybody else, more than anything else. You ask these parents. The vast majority of them will tell you they love their child more than anything else, more than everybody. That child means the world to them. All these things you got to say about that child, but you are so openly willing to subject that child to physical harm, to pain. You have an opportunity to discipline your child, to be a good parent without physical discipline, without harming your child, without subjecting your child to this level of failure. Why would you not accept that? That suggests there's something really wrong with a lot of these parents, because they do argue me on this. Like I said, I've been at this for many, many years. They will argue with me on this. They will try so hard to justify physically abusing their children. But guess what? My black people, every single other group of people globally are doing far better than we are with parenting. That's a fact, unfortunately. Do your own research. Don't just jump on here and be mad at the things I'm saying and disagree with the things I'm saying and be all combative and everything just because you don't like what I'm saying. Do your own research. I've done my own research. You want to join me in discussion about this? I am open to that. More than willing. We can have a video discussion about this. Having these discussions, this is where it starts. This is how it begins. I'll explain that a little bit more at the end of my video. Bro, people weak as ASF nowadays because they don't want to physically discipline their children. They're weak. They're weak because they don't want to subject their child to physical harm as a form of discipline when you don't have to. They're weak because they love their children enough to not want to abuse them, to create physical harm, to create them pain, to subject them to pain. They're weak because of that. They're weak because they love their children. Little man is being taught violence makes obedience. I'm sure he won't beat his woman and kids one day. The majority of the comments are proving how failed so many people are when it comes to the most important part of human life. The most important part of human life is the life that we create. Doing a good job creating people. That's the most important part of human life. Doing a good job creating people. When I say creating people, I mean parenting. That's my way of referring to parenting, creating people. How we create people is how this world is going to turn out. You do a great job creating great people, they will do great things. It's that simple. It's that simple. If you're teaching them hate and they grow up to hate people, they grow up to do violent things, they grow up to be terrorists or whatever the case may be. You've raised them that way. You've taught that to them. Some people are intentionally out here teaching their children incorrectly, teaching their children to be violent, to do the wrong things. Now, I know a whole lot of you parents will think negatively. You will stand strongly against those who are intentionally teaching their children to be hateful and racist and all these other horrible things in this world. You will disagree with that. That there are parents that are intentionally teaching their children to be hateful and be violent and do all these things. But you as a parent, if you are subjecting your child to physical violence, you are just as bad as these other people. The only thing that physical discipline teaches our children is that it is acceptable to respond with physical violence when you don't get the desired results. They see this from you. You want them to do a certain thing. You want them, instead of having a conversation with them, and don't try to talk about, oh, well, there's been plenty of conversation, then they don't listen, then you got to. No, you have to find a different way of getting through to them. That's good parenting. Why is it so difficult for so many people to understand that? The same exact way, your child, many children, and even grown adults in this world can be so easily influenced by different things in this world. Whether it's an advertisement, whether it's social media, whether it's some famous celebrity, whether it's whatever it is. They can be so easily influenced. They can be so easily encouraged to go one way or another because of something that they saw. Something that had an effect on. As a parent, your job is to be the biggest influence, the greatest influence over that life that you've created. Be a greater influence than social media and their friends out in the streets and all these many other things in this world. That is the extremely important responsibility of parenting. You should have the greatest influence over that life that you've created. That's how you discipline. And I know it's a whole lot more to it than just saying just that I just stated. But please understand, this is why it's so extremely important to make sure you're prepared. You have the discipline yourself and the patience yourself to parent somebody. If you don't, then don't have any daggone children. It is very important. If you've done a great job raising your children, then you don't have to worry about the things they're going to do or how they're going to change as they become adult, as they get out here in this world and do things on their own. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to be concerned if they're going to go and turn to a life of crime. Or that won't be a concern if you've been a great parent, if you've parented correctly. No hesitation to go and comment. Stay in the comments, but be afraid to have a real discussion about this stuff. Important discussions. Stay in the comments. Don't want to join me for a video discussion about this. This is where it starts. This is how we get to the bottom of things. This is how we make positive change. We can't read each other's minds, my people. Of course, it has to start with discussion. Right here. That's what I expect. That's what I'm trying to accomplish with Harvey Rants. We will have discussions that will influence and encourage the necessary actions that will ultimately create these positive changes for our people. If you truly care to see a positive difference for us, then subscribe to change. Subscribe to being better people. Subscribe to having these conversations with me. Let's have these discussions.